You're a busy professional. You don't have time for fluff. You need strategies that work, and you need them fast. Welcome to Busy Pro Fast Wellness with me, your host, Alan Well. We're here to give you science-backed hacks
of your olive oil bottle there and show me what the spout looks like.
Maximize your results.
I'll give you some more feedback.
More impact.
Oh boy.
Time to get well. Stay strong and
I'm sorry.
Let's get to it.
It's not funny. I'm sorry. The look on your face. I am so sorry.
Hello, in today's episode, it was a real pleasure to speak to my highly qualified nutritionist guest, Carol Amendola Danker, and she specializes in longevity and the role of high quality olive oil in long-term health. And we talked about how to choose a top-notch bottle of olive oil, the common mistakes that people make when buying it, and also we spoke about the powerful antioxidants which are known as polyphenols. These are compounds discovered only in the last century that are now linked to protection against heart disease, diabetes, and other modern lifestyle illnesses. So it was also a real pleasure for me personally, as the conversation brought back fond memories of the 2 years my wife and I spent living near Naples in the mid-1990s. And just on a quick note, due to the slight echo in the recording, the audio you're about to hear has been cleaned as much as I possibly can. I think it's okay, but it was tricky to get rid of the echo in the video version, so I've left this as an unlisted YouTube link in the show notes, should you like to see some of the visual moments of our conversation. Okay, I will see you on the other side. Hello, and today I'm joined by Carol Amendola Danker, who is a board-certified and licensed clinical nutritionist whose work focuses on longevity and how extra virgin olive oil supports long-term health. Hi, Carol. I am genuinely, truly excited to have you on the podcast. So welcome to my humble pod today. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ellen. I was looking forward to it.
Great.
Really.
I think we have some mutual interests, having spoken very briefly in the past. So that's great. So anyway, as a board certified, I should say, and licensed clinical nutritionist, how did your work in clinical practice shape your broader understanding of long-term health and longevity?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And that was an interesting and continues to be an interesting journey. Initially, as a new nutritionist, I thought that if we could just clean up the diet, if we could just get rid of junk food, if we could stop eating ultra-processed food, everyone would feel so much better. And so that's mainly what I focused on when I started seeing clients in practice. And what happened is there were some of my clients that actually took my suggestions and cleaned up their diet, and they weren't eating processed foods. And not very much as you can do in a modern society. But as we continued to work together, I could tell, even from conversations we were having and from their labs and some of the things they were complaining about, that wasn't enough. Somehow that wasn't quite it. And so I became frustrated as a nutritionist, thinking that this should be going better for my clients, and started looking into the broader piece of longevity and lifestyle. And what really, really changed my focus was in 2019, I took a trip to the Blue Zone of Sardinia, and it was a tour with some of the lead scientists from the Blue Zone of Sardinia to learn about why people are living to 100 and beyond, and why aren't they getting the same chronic illnesses that we get in modern society. And after talking to and doing that tour and sitting down with the lead scientists, I realized and recognized that there's a lot more to it than diet. And that at times, even for people living in the Blue Zone of Sardinia and people that are centenarians, their diet is not always exactly perfect. So it was a real wake-up call for me. I began taking notes, and then, of course, I have family in Italy that's very healthy and enjoys longevity, and started noticing more about how they live and what their outcome is. So it was an evolution. It started there. I've always been passionate about nutrition. It began very early in life. I went on to study biochemistry. I went on to get a master's in clinical nutrition, and I thought that I had arrived, but it was just the beginning.
Wow, that's a great story. I mean, that's obviously you've gone in there, you've experienced, and you've seen firsthand how people can have these really healthy lives and live, as you say, beyond 100. And I always find it quite, sort of disturbing, really, when you start to analyze the diets of people, in the United States and the UK, and you notice that obviously there is quite a lot of obesity around there. Then you visit other countries, notably the south of Italy, as you've mentioned, and you mentioned Sardinia as well. But which brings me on to this sort of question I wanted to ask, because obviously you've got these strong roots, and I think that you have them in Naples. Is that correct?
Yes.
It is.
I have
Okay.
family just outside of Naples.
Right. Great. Because as I mentioned before, my wife and I, we lived near there in the mid-90s. We lived in a place called Castello di Cisterna, which is very close to Pomiano d'Arco. But when you visit today, and I haven't been back there since 1998, but when you visit today, what do you see in daily life that people outside Italy often miss about longevity?
Yes, there's a lot. Unfortunately, when people go to the south of Italy, or let's say Naples specifically, because it's become very popular, they're so overwhelmed by, the monuments, the history, the chaotic, can seem very chaotic.
Yes.
I think it's organized chaos, and I love it. It gives me energy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and
Actually,
even
just on that note, when we first got the train out from Castello di Cisterna to Naples, I didn't know what was going on. I was just being surrounded by so many people, so much frantic living, and it seemed so hectic. I found I was a bit disturbed the first time, but then after that, I really got into it and started to embrace it fully. So yeah, it's such fine memories of those times. All that time ago. Yeah, sorry to
can tell
interrupt
that
you.
by the smile on your face as you're talking about it. I mean, it really is an experience. And I, by the way, if
Yeah.
I digress just for a moment, I take people to Italy, or have been for the last 10 years, to show them this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because when you go there on a vacation, or as a tourist, or even as an extended stay to live there for a short period of time, you don't really get to see how the people are living behind this chaos, because what looks like chaos. And so there's a real lifestyle that ebbs and flows, and there's an organized way of living, even within what seems so crazy to many people. And they don't see it, but I see it in my family when I go there. And I started with a little project that I call observational research. So I started observing how they live, and I started observing what I saw around me beyond the diet. Of course, diet's huge, and that can be a big help. But, what people don't see or don't really recognize as part of a daily life is that the walking, there's a lot of physical walking. The life in south of Italy is not necessarily an easy life, but it's built in from childhood on, that they're used to walking, and they're used to walking on cobblestone streets. There's a lot of stairs. There's a lot of steps. When I do bring groups, they're kind of looking around. Where's the elevator? Where's the escalator? this and where are the taxis? And there's none of that there. People just rely on being able to walk and climb steps, and it goes on for life, even into older age.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there's another thing that most visitors don't see, or unfortunately can't see, but Italians in this area of Italy are very closely connected. They have social networks that really keep their stress down. They are connected with other neighbors, with family, with people they don't even know. They'll start talking to them on the streets. Italians are talking all day long at the coffee bar in the morning, at the way to work, on the street. You can't walk anywhere without meeting someone, and they're asking, how are you? How's your family? Whatever it could be. So that is something that's kind of hidden in plain sight, I like to call it. And those things keep your stress down, keep your body physically, healthy. I don't want to go into too much of their diet, but it's definitely the Mediterranean diet. Everyone has a garden, even if it's a small garden, and generations of people in one family will work on that garden. People are out getting exercise. They're connected very closely with their food. So that's why I started doing these small group trips of 12 or 15 people. I'll be taking one group to Calabria in May so that we can go there not as a vacation, but everybody loves it, but so that we can immerse into the lifestyle. And I always feel bad, especially someone that might take a cruise and they get dropped off at Naples for maybe 8 hours, and then they have to get back on the boat and go. You really can't taste the lifestyle.
No, absolutely not. No, for sure. I mean, a cruise is not going to do that. And it's like anything, but my wife and I live in different countries, and you have to live there for several months at least before you can really absorb the culture. And I would agree with that totally. And it's interesting what you say about the fact that in Naples, people just tend to talk to you all the time, and it's very friendly. I recall that where we lived in an apartment, which is part of a big house, and on the bottom floor was la nonna, the grandmother, and she would come out every day and would chat with us. Okay, mangi oggi, she's really interested to know what we're eating, and she'd tell us about her diet, and there was a garden there as well, and it was a very sociable type of existence, and built on people getting out and about, and I really enjoyed that side of it. Yeah. So
yes, you brought up another good point that I didn't mention, but from your experience, you felt it, you lived it. People live in close proximity to each other.
Yeah.
They're not in homes. Everybody's isolated on their little plot of land. It's almost impossible to be isolated or to be lonely. Even if you're doing wash in your apartment and you need to hang it out on your balcony, you could be talking to your neighbor at the building next to it. You smell the foods that people are, cooking, and you hear the noises. And so you're never really totally isolated.
No.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. You've made me think of something, actually. You're talking about you go outside and you hang your clothes and you've got that kind of community spirit where people can talk to you. And I remember when I went to visit because my folks, my dad lived for many, many years in the United States, in Florida, and his wife, she's a New Yorker, but they moved to Florida, and we went there to visit. And my wife went outside to hang her clothes, sort of like on a bit of tree or something. And my stepmother was absolutely horrified. She came back, you can't possibly do that. That's against the rules. It's just an unthinkable thought to actually do that. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. Anyway, let's focus a little bit on olive oil. I bought a little bit of realia here. I have an example of olive oil here in front of me, and I checked out the label on this as well because I did a bit of research, and so I knew nothing about the intricacies of olive oil extra virgin, which we always have. But many people assume that buying extra virgin is indeed enough. Now, in your view, what is the biggest mistake consumers make when they select olive oil for health?
Yeah, I am an olive oil aficionado. I am and connected with an olive oil producer, artisan producer in Calabria, Italy. He ships it directly to me from the farm. I would say the biggest mistake well, there's two that are tied for first place. The first one is they buy on price. They buy the biggest jug at the lowest price and think all olive oil is the same. But equally as important, most people do not know how to read the label on olive oil. They don't know what they're looking for. And I see it even now today at the grocery store. Well-meaning people, probably you when you bought that bottle of olive oil, standing there, big array, you're trying to figure out, what's the best olive oil to use. Sadly, the very highest quality of olive oil rarely resides in the grocery stores. By the time it gets to the grocery store, it's something that's been mass produced. I don't know where you live, but in the United States here, a lot of the labels on olive oil would be illegal in Europe or in Italy. They would not be able to sell it with the labels that are on it. Such things as calling it refined, making it sound like it's really a higher quality, when refined olive oil has been ultra processed. Does yours say refined?
I'm just looking now, in fact, and I can't see any indication of refined at all. The only things I ever look out for, I always make sure that when I buy extra virgin, I tend to buy the same brand because if I shop at the same supermarket, I always make sure that it's in a glass bottle and that I always go for the organic version of whatever I buy because we just tend to buy organic anyway. But that's the only criteria I have. And we're not talking very much. We do tend to get through half a litre a week. So we do use olive oil a lot. And we use it for cooking and everything, for salads and all of our cooking, whatever we do. But as long as it's got that. But apart from that, I know nothing about it. And having looked at some of your videos and obviously talking to you now, I know that there are other things I need to look out for. So...
Well, I could help you with that because I put together a label decoder, and it's the one sheet where you can go take it to the grocery store and check off what should really be on an exceptional bottle of olive oil. First of all, you're right about the glass. It needs to be dark glass because olive oil packaged in plastic you could actually be ingesting plastic because plastic leaches into the oil.
Yeah.
So not plastic and not clear, but a dark glass bottle.
Would that constitute a dark glass?
That looks like a dark green glass.
Yeah, it's dark green. Okay. I wasn't sure if you meant even darker.
Yeah, I should have brought one of my bottles up. I buy 6 at a time, and I keep the other 5 in a cool, dark place. But dark glass, that is good. And then ideally, you would want to know the harvest date on the bottle, on the label. Does yours have a harvest date?
No, it doesn't have a harvest date. I did check that before. It only has an expiration date, and that's it. There's no harvesting date. So.
Oh, that's a real tricky thing that producers do. They will put an expiration date, but you never know how old that olive oil is.
No idea.
So with a harvest date, you know how fresh or how not fresh it is. And a lot of producers will put the expiration date as 3 years ahead. And olive oil doesn't last 3 years, even in a closed bottle. It might not be rancid, but it certainly doesn't have the nutrients that it should have. Right. So the real reason for using olive oil is to get the nutrients, the polyphenols. You probably heard that being used in my videos. You want the polyphenols, which are antioxidants. Well, what are polyphenols? That is a special class of nutrients that was just discovered in the last century that act as antioxidants. And the benefits of the polyphenols it hits almost every chronic illness. It can help with heart disease, with diabetes, with a number of these illnesses that modern societies have. And that's what you want in the olive oil, in addition to good taste. So A very good and open, honest producer of olive oil will have open disclosure, and he or she will post what the laboratory analysis is of their olive oil. If you're getting polyphenols, you might have noticed they have a couple videos where there's a couple of celebrity influencers talking about olive oil, and they're making all kinds of claims about this olive oil, but there's no way for the consumer to know if it's really true.
Okay.
So if you have a nice, good, small artisan producer of olive oil that will put that on their website or send it with their bottle of olive oil, then you know exactly what you're ingesting.
Correct.
So those are the things. There's other things I have on my label decoder. I can give you a link to that if you would like.
Oh yeah, please post the link in, and I'll put anything that you give to me in the show notes, of course. Yes.
Okay, because I also have one then is a checklist for how to use and store olive oil. Once you go through all this trouble of finding good olive oil, you want to know the best way to use it. So what a lot of people will do, here's a question for you. If you could open the cap of your olive oil bottle there and
sure.
show me what the spout looks like, I'll give you some more feedback. Oh, boy.
Not good.
I'm sorry. It's not funny. I'm sorry. The look on your face. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
That kind of spout acts like a chimney for air to get into that bottle of olive oil every time you open it. And a lot of people will open a bottle of olive oil and then they'll be cooking with it and they just set it on the counter and they'll use it again and again. And all that time, air is getting in.
Right.
Olive oil is not like wine. It doesn't need to breathe. In fact, like light, the air also destroys it, makes it rancid. So I have another document that I put together, and once you find some good olive oil, here's how to use it. Keep it tightly capped. Keep it in a cool place. Don't put it above the stove where it gets hot because heat damages it as well, and other things like that.
Well, these are all very useful tips, and you're like an olive oil sommelier. You are that like for sure, because you obviously know all of these things. And the only thing I will say in my defense, even though I obviously from now on I will be much more aware of what to look out for and pay heed to what you just said. But we do get through so much of it that it probably wouldn't matter so much if you were leaving it for months and months and months. Whereas this one will be gone within the next couple of weeks for sure. It will be finished. I don't know if that would actually particularly make a massive amount of difference, but I know that I will be seeking out different ones. And there's a taste test as well I read about that you can. I don't know if you want to share something about that, because is there something where you get there's a peppery sort of taste as a better sign of a quality olive oil? Is that true?
Oh, that's true. It's called a sensory test, and that's the last test after the lab results. Then there are professional testers that warm these little containers of olive oil, and they don't sip it, they suck it through the back of their throat, through their teeth. It's kind of interesting to watch.
Gosh, it's like wine.
And they can,
wine tasting, oil tasting, good heavens.
Oh, yes. And then you want to feel that peppery taste in the back of the throat. Now, I'm always mixed on that for the average person, because they could be trying to do a sensory test and feel this peppery taste in the back of their throat, but it could also be due to acidity, which is damage to the olive oil.
Yeah.
So, but that's what the olive oil sommeliers do.
Yeah, right.
They do that sensory test, and then they can tell defects in the olive oil.
Okay.
Even if it's not showing up in a lab report. The lab reports they're pretty hard to skate on. I've sent olive oil to professional labs, and my guess were correct that it came back either good or bad.
Right.
With the content of polyphenols. So that's the biggest mistake I think people make, and these labels are meant to confuse the consumer, especially in a place like the United States where they let everything in with all these certifications and approvals and fancy labels and refined on the label. I mean, it is very difficult to sort through that information.
Yeah. Well, that's very good that you're there as a conduit, really, in order to help people to make those decisions. And also the idea of the taste test. It could be construed as quite subjective as well, because for a normal person to do that, to make that assessment, I did try it earlier on today because I was genuinely curious, having done a bit of research, and I thought that this particular brand of olive oil, there was a real peppery taste. So I thought, I'm on a winner here. I've got a decent quality bottle. I need to be thoroughly disappointed by your analysis of my bottle top. It's like I failed miserably on that.
Well,
but anyway,
you're doing something right with just using it up.
yeah.
I've given my good olive oil to people, and then I go to their house and they're not using it, and I ask, why aren't you using it? Oh, well, we're saving it for good. Well, don't save it. Use it. Buy it in smaller containers. That's what another people do. They buy these big jugs of olive oil, and then they keep refilling into a carafe or some cute little container, and that's one of the worst things. It's better buy it in smaller containers and use it up.
All right, that's a great tip.
You got that right.
Yeah, I'm thinking now you make, and I'm a great fan of red wine. I have been for many years, but we always have this really good red wine. It stays in the cupboard, and we save it for a special occasion, and that special occasion never seems to come. We just forget about it being there. 10 years later, it's probably no good anymore.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, we need to be aware of those sorts of things. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because when we lived in Naples, we were struck by the agriturismos we visited, because they're beautifully simple food, full of artistry and creativity. In your experience, how much of longevity is about the olive oil itself versus the broader Mediterranean way of living and eating generally?
Well, the olive oil is the basis. It's the foundational piece of the cooking. You see it everywhere, and it's used in just about everything. So it's a foundational piece. But that Mediterranean diet is really a part of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And one thing that I try to distinguish is that as what we call the Mediterranean diet is really a Mediterranean lifestyle. So it's the olive oil, it's the food, it's the seasonal and fresh food. I've had travelers come with me that tell me they've never tasted food like that.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Me too. I mean, we've lived all over the place, and definitely top of the list, Naples, southern Italy for food, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Really, I have, So yeah.
And unfortunately, the big food is starting to creep in to every country, including Italy. And I don't know if you're aware of this, or most people probably wouldn't be. Every region has a division in their police department that's the food police. And they are monitoring the food that comes in. They'll go into a grocery store or a restaurant and they'll confiscate food, and they will find the source of it. And if it's coming from way outside of Italy, or if it's not of the quality that they expect, they confiscate that food. They confiscate tons of food every year.
Wow.
And so they're not fooling around. Their food is a national treasure. In fact, it was earlier this year that Italy received the UNESCO award for its food culture. Not necessarily for the Mediterranean diet, but for the whole culture, because every region of Italy will have a little difference in how they prepare food and what's available in that region.
Yeah.
So it's a national treasure that they are protecting with the food police. And olive oil has really been terribly sought after, because there's a lot of illegal practices happening with olive oil.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting you talk about the food police because that, for me, when you say those two words, it sounds a bit like an oxymoron in the sense that the police are coming in. You always think, oh gosh, they're going to catch me out, but for the right reasons as well, and to uphold standards of the food in that area, which is absolutely brilliant. And I'm so pleased that they've won this, the UNESCO award, and rightfully so. If they got such high standards that they are attempting to maintain all the time. That's brilliant. It really is. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think on my YouTube channel, there's a video from a chef, a famous chef in Italy, and he talks about this designation and why it's so important. And it's not for any certain food. It's for the whole country, even with its variations in the regions. I'm very connected to the region of Campania. I love that region, but everywhere as you go north, the food changes. And that how important this is that Italy's been recognized for all of its centuries of preserving this culture.
Yeah, every region's very, very different. And it's such a shame that many people have no idea of the richness of the Italian food in general and the care and the love that they have for food and cuisine generally, and whether that extends to wine and the olive oil and other types of things, because people have this notion that it's just pizza and pasta, and it's just like, oh no, that is such a small, tiny part, which is a very staple part of the diet. Well, not the pizza necessarily, but pasta definitely in different forms and shapes. But it's just the primero piatti, in many of these places. So that's anyway. I have on a daily habit question here, which is really to do with a simple daily habit. If someone wanted to adopt one practical olive oil based habit to support long-term health, what would you suggest they begin doing tomorrow?
Oh, well, there's a couple
Okay.
that come to mind right away. Of course, the first one is just open the cupboard doors in your kitchen and get rid of ultra processed food.
Okay.
And then do that on a daily basis until it's gone. Start eliminating things. Another really easy one is just going out, being in nature every day, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes, and take a walk. And that's another daily habit. One that I'll mention that is very, very powerful, but it's not easy to do, and it's something that we really need to focus on more for longevity, and that is to build personal connections, to build a personal network. We have a epidemic of loneliness in the United States, and I know that it's growing in other parts of the world, that actually makes us sick. There's a biology of an epidemic like that actually happens to change our biology, and it weakens our immune system. So on a daily basis, I hesitate to mention that because then the next question is how? How do we do that? In a society that doesn't necessarily support this social connections the way the populations of longevity do. So, that's a whole process, and it's not just calling someone and hoping that, you're starting to build relationships. It's really putting yourself out there. It's inviting people into your home. I know people that have said, I don't even invite someone for a cup of coffee. I don't like that idea. But this is a beginning. We need to start reaching out. We're all so isolated. I spoke with one nutritionist that I thought she had such a great idea. She lived in an apartment building where everybody was kind of filed away in their little apartments along the hallway, and she developed a communal dinner one night a week, and everybody opens their doors. Big long table goes in the hallway. Everyone bring a dish, and they have dinner together, and it's made such a difference. So I think we need to become more aware of this and that daily habit can go a long way, because when you reduce stress, you reduce cortisol, you reduce the opportunity for chronic illness.
Yeah.
And that's something we need to be aware of and incorporate back. I saw it in the blue zones. I see it in the small villages of Italy. I mean, when you have a network you can kind of count on, people life feels very different.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very powerful story to relay, because I noticed that I live in Spain, and you can see that there is a massively tight-knit community within certain areas. So we in the pueblos and all the towns and villages around the main cities, where people know each other and people tend to hang out a lot in the cafes and bars, and everybody's doing their paseos, walking around, and it's so much healthier than it would be. I mean, it's not so much. I would notice it probably if you were in a big city, it's probably much more anonymity there, so you wouldn't have that. And you mentioned the idea of going into a building. I cannot imagine. I live on the 7th floor, which is the top floor on an Attico flat, and I can't imagine people in my particular building opening up their doors for a monthly sit-down meal together. That just wouldn't happen, I don't think. Even though people are friendly enough, they'll say hello, but it's not that kind of community that would do that. But probably other ones would, and other villages and things, I think, are smaller than a big city. I'm in the third biggest city in Spain, in Valencia, so it's very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when I bring my small groups to Italy, we have our dinners all together at one table, family style.
Yeah.
And at first people are they're not so sure they're going to like this, but they get to really like it. And by the end of the trip, I'm hearing comments like, I'm going to really miss this. I'm going to miss sitting down at a table with a group of people and then sharing stories from the day. And it really, I mean, I can see the stress just kind of fall off the faces of people.
Yeah.
Just from this lifestyle. And we can incorporate that in our lifestyles too. It's not necessarily easy. No one's going to do it for us, but I think the more people that want it and start taking steps toward it, the more it'll grow.
It's definitely a distinction there between, I mean, I've got a big involvement in France. My wife's French, and in France, it's very similar to that. The families and friends will meet up, and it's a big all-day kind of lunch. It will go on for many hours, and people will be very friendly, and it's very communal. And I get that here. People do that within their families. I haven't really had that same integration because I'm an English person living in Spain, so it's not quite the same for me. But if I were invited, I have friends who regularly go, and they've been here for longer, or they've managed to penetrate one of those families, and they're invited over paella and things like that. And so they do have that tradition here of getting together regularly. And I think that, again, is that community. And I think that really, as you say, that really does help with your overall mental health as well, which obviously feeds into physical health. So yeah, it's all very positive and great. Yeah, I think this has been a very, it's been lovely to cover all bases when it comes to the health as well, and a longevity. And I think a lot of what you just said makes such sense as well. Carol, in terms of people wanting to contact you, because I know that you have a very successful, well, it is successful. It's relative when we say very, it has not millions of followers, but you've got thousands, I think, of followers on your YouTube channel. So what's the best way to contact you if people wanted to get in touch?
Well, I have a website, a YouTube channel, LinkedIn, all of those, and I can send you some links.
Please.
I mean, I could tell you my website name is Whole Health Longevity, but why don't I send some links, and if someone wants to follow up. Oh, and I'll send the links to how to read the olive oil label and how to use and store.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'll make a note of that and send that off to you.
Yeah. Please send me all of those things, and I'll stick those in the show notes so people have easy access to how to contact you and to any other material that you have. And I have to be honest, which is a sort of rookie mistake on my part, I didn't check your website out. I checked your YouTube channel out, but I haven't seen your website because you're one step ahead of me. My website is going to be probably published this week, 2 days. I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, I haven't got a website. Yeah, I've done it the wrong way around. Well, not necessarily.
That's a big project.
It's getting on for like 6-7 weeks in terms of building it. Yeah, and it's
That sounds fast to me, and mine has been evolving for years. I'm very happy with it now. I'm very proud of it. So yeah, I will send you that link.
Please do. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Today's conversation reminds me, obviously, that longevity isn't just about living longer. It's about living better, with intention, with flavor, with purpose. Obviously, the olive oil, that matters, of course, but it's really the lifestyle that matters. And most of all, perhaps it's the way that we choose to live with each other that really matters as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for today. And I will bid you farewell and say goodbye for now, and see you later. Cheers, Carol.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with Carol. What really stood out to me is that longevity isn't about chasing complicated health trends. It's about quality, consistency, and lifestyle. From choosing better olive oil to reducing ultra-processed foods to spending time outdoors and sharing meals with others. Indeed, the Mediterranean way of life offers some powerful lessons. I have to say that even as I'm recording this, I've been trying to find a moment when there is absolutely no noise outside due to the pandemonium that is the noise emanating from Las Fallas Festival in Valencia. It's almost impossible to find a moment of peace at the moment. I've just decided to give up even trying. Anyway, if you'd like to explore Carol's work further, she's kindly shared several resources with us, including her olive oil label decoder and storage checklist. And you'll also find all of the other links to Carol and how you can contact her in the show notes as well. So thank you for listening to Petit Pro Fast Wellness. Until next time, keep it simple, keep it consistent, and keep moving towards better health. Goodbye for now.